A Ukrainian soldier hears the approach of heavy equipment and rushes to his position at full speed to immediately report it to command.
Я на зв'язку, кажи.
Бачу рух в сторону від нас.
Відстань.
100-150 метрів.
До бою, блядь.
Russian artillery is covering the armored group to prevent Ukrainian soldiers from emerging from their trenches and striking it.
Выстрел!
However, the artillery does not prevent the strike drone group from engaging the Russian armored forces, so the drone operators receive the order to attack.
Всі в ружьо, всі до бою.
Drones take to the sky to engage their targets. The first drone crashes near the tank. But the Ukrainians have plenty of drones, and this is only the beginning. Direct hit. The tank is still crawling forward, but not for long. A few more strikes, and the enemy vehicles come to a stop. The IFV, spotting the destroyed tank ahead, brakes right at the entrance to the village. The Russian troops panic and abandon their armor. A reconnaissance drone captures a Ukrainian FPV kamikaze and at least 4 Russian assault troops who have already leapt out. One of them flails his rifle desperately, trying to shoot down the drone, but it's too late. Drones continuously take to the sky. The Russians scatter. Some flee into the tree line. Others try to reach the half-ruined village to hide there. They manage to pull it off, successfully crossing the open ground and hiding in a small cellar. But one of them decides he can take on the drone. He opens fire. Twice he gets lucky, but then he makes a fatal mistake. He traps himself in a dead end and, at the same time, gives away the position of his comrades. He thinks he's safe, that he did everything right. But the silence is suddenly broken. A drone bursts through the door. And within seconds, it becomes clear just how wrong he was. The Ukrainians continue their meticulous work, checking every crack and crevice where a Russian assault trooper might be hiding. Several soldiers have rushed into this house, thus trapping themselves as well. The drone operators strike again and again. The building practically melts before your eyes, like ice cream in the heat. By the way, during the operation, one of the operators made a spot-on comment about the situation. Make sure to give this guy a big thumbs up under the video, for the sense of humor that survives even in such harsh conditions.
Солнце палит.
Кстати, да. У меня камера сегодня отключалась от перегрева.
Главное, чтобы мы не подключались от перегрева.
Meanwhile, the Ukrainians launch a heavy drone bomber equipped with a mortar shell, a kind of Baba Yaga that strikes fear into the Russians. Watch it again. You can clearly see the mortar shell flying through the air. Those powerful strikes forced one of the Russians to run outside and make a desperate decision to play a real game of Russian roulette. He leaves the building and sprints across the field, trying to reach the dense green tree line. As soon as he stepped into the open, the drone began circling around him. He managed to run about 50 meters, but never made it to the green cover. By the way, the Russian soldiers who, at the start of the failed assault, chose to flee and hide in the tree line instead of running toward the houses didn't go unnoticed either. One of them froze. The only explanation is that he imagined himself a chameleon. That made the drone operator's job much easier, sparing him the trouble of chasing the target through the dense forest. A group of Ukrainian soldiers went after the others. They had managed to leave their trench after the Russian artillery strike. Well prepared and fully focused on their objective, they moved with purpose. Carefully moving inward, they heard a noise. There was a lot of tall grass around, and every careless step gave away their position. Through the dense bushes where the sound came from, the Ukrainians visually spotted a Russian soldier. They moved even closer. At that moment, he spotted them too and opened fire first. The response came in a flash.
А не скули ты, сдаваться надо было, сука! Скулишь, блядь, хуй ты отстреливалась, дичью.
It took some time to find the last one. He covered a much greater distance, but still couldn't escape.
Пацаны, звідти контакт.
This Russian soldier also tried to fight back. It's unclear whether he ran out of ammunition or simply had a bit more sense than his comrade, but in the end, he decided to surrender.
Кинь оружие, блядь. Иди сюда, руки вверх, иди сюда. Сюда иди. Ты сам? Сам? Иди сюда. Иди сюда, блядь. Давай быстро, давай.
This decision saved his life, and someday he will be sent back to Russia in a prisoner exchange. Meanwhile, alongside these operations to neutralize Russian soldiers, one of the drone teams was dealing with the equipment that had been damaged and abandoned during the failed assault. They definitely had the upper hand in heavy equipment, possibly even in numbers. But they clearly underestimated and failed to account for both the number and the skill of the Ukrainian drone operators. Logistics is a crucial and inseparable part of any combat operation, and these Ukrainian guys know it well. A drone is already circling above a juicy target. Take a look. One quad bike has already been destroyed on this road, never making it to the Russian positions with its cargo. The operator notices that the truck is loaded with ammunition. And that can mean only one thing: a big explosion is coming. He circles for a while longer, assessing the situation, and then delivers the strike. The explosion turned out to be truly spectacular. Here's a similar situation involving the same type of equipment. Take a look. There's already a destroyed quad bike on the road. Heading straight toward the drone is an identical truck, which comes to a stop next to the quad after taking a hit. The crew doesn't spend much time thinking it over. They flee the scene. Whatever the cargo may be, their lives are more important. Another drone finishes off the vehicle. But it's not just about the vehicles. The Russian army has a whole category of personnel dedicated to deliveries. And just like the equipment, they're a high-value target for drones. In fact, lately, they've become an even higher priority. Here's one of those Russian soldiers. He's carrying something in a bottle. There aren't many options. It's either water or fuel. And he's also holding something that looks like a bag, possibly with food. The duel begins. Given the terrain and the direction he was moving, he was just about 100 meters short of reaching his own lines. He has no weapon on him. Even without the additional cargo he's carrying, the gear itself is already quite heavy, so he resorts to using his helmet. After a bit more running, he launches his final projectile, his cap. And as a farewell to this little relay, a photo for the Darwin Award. Of course, Russian technology never stands still. Their engineers are constantly inventing new, high-quality gadgets for soldiers, meant to make their lives easier and take supply delivery to a whole new level. A true breakthrough, a real leap forward. Jokes aside, when it comes to ground drones capable of delivering various supplies, the Russians are actually doing fairly well. In this case, something went wrong. Maybe it ran out of fuel or the battery died. The Russian ground drone came to a stop right in the middle of the road. The Ukrainian drone circled around it for a bit and took it out. Judging by the explosion, it was carrying ammunition that never made it to its destination. The Ukrainians took it a step further and began integrating weapons onto various ground drones. One of them recently carried out a successful attack on Russian positions. Take a look at its design. First, it's equipped with a weapon that can rotate and adjust its vertical angle. You can also see that the drone, though minimally, is still armored. In addition, there's a visible compartment, most likely where the ammunition is stored. The design is well thought out and, most importantly, effective. Control is carried out remotely from a secure location. The operation is managed by two people. One operator directly controls the ground drone and fires using the onboard camera, while the other, a UAV operator, provides a wider view from above and adjusts the drone's movements based on the positions of Russian forces. The drone moves into position and opens fire. At first glance, it seems like it's shooting at nothing, but the onboard camera clearly shows enemy movement, someone pushing through the bushes. At this stage of the war, mechanized assaults are becoming an increasingly rare sight. It's unclear what the crew of this tank was hoping for when they decided to approach Ukrainian positions. The vehicle took a direct drone hit right to the turret. At one point, flames started pouring out of it. But the crew chose not to abandon the tank. On the one hand, that's actually a convenient outcome. The Ukrainians won't have to waste drones chasing enemy soldiers across open ground. On the other hand, maybe it was the moment they realized resistance was pointless. And perhaps the day isn't far off when every Russian soldier finally comes to a simple, undeniable understanding. They are on foreign soil, where no one is waiting for them, and the only thing that is waiting is a fate just like this tank's.